Well, it's the man behind the curtain. I just wanted to read some material, some writing, some discovery, a little mixed here and there. Let's see, this one's going to be declared facts, collected facts. Let's see what we got here. It says, fact, I am a common, unfranchised, common law freeman, peasant, your choice, whatever you want to call me. I live at the common law, as most people do, but they don't know, and they get trapped in going into an admiralty, merchant court, or an unknown contract, for that fact of the matter. I'm not a participant in any tontine schemes and limited liability on a joint venture for profit with an insurable interest requiring me to participate in these corporate Ponzi schemes. So I guess how to put it in layman's term is we're not part of any of their little commerce, admiralty, merchant, or unconstitutional acts. And the way I can describe it to you is you're tricked into a contract and you don't even know it because you're ignorant of the law. And so there's many ways that they trick you, so you need to read everything that you get, like a driver's license, any paperwork pertaining to anything with the government, anything pertaining to money, contract. The best example I can give you would be DMV. DMV is the most illegal institution and agency made whenever they were created, and we've been duped in their little schemes ever since they were created. And they tricked our mothers and our fathers, they tricked our grandmothers and our grandparents and their mothers and fathers and their grandparents, probably all the way back to I don't know, probably maybe right before the Civil War and right after the Civil War. But anyways, there's so many tricks that we're not aware of. They're all right there in front of our nose, but we're trained and programmed a certain way. But anyways, I'll continue on. Let's see. I'm just a little Joe from Hamilton. I live on the block. I live at the common law. I have a right to work and travel freely without any obstruction of my fundamental rights and my life, liberty, and to pursue happiness, without any encroachment and without infringing or dictated by any arbitrary third party. Let be recorded and submitted into the common court I claim. Unfortunately, we didn't really, let's see, I'm going to think back in the 1938 when they enacted some unconstitutional acts and laws. I can't think of the name of it at the top of my head. But anyways, back then, we were tricked. Well, like I said, further back, even before that, our ancestors were tricked. But the fact of the matter is back then, I would say back in the 1920s or 1930s, we didn't really have to claim our constitutional rights. It was pretty much there and pretty part of the norm. But what happened when we get all these foreigners invading our nation and coming to our nation, they seem to bring their admiralty and merchant courts along with them. And what they did is by bringing those courts in, I'm going to predict back in the 1930s, we didn't have to claim our constitutional rights. It was pretty normal. But nowadays, the rights are still there under common law and on the sovereign land in the sovereign states. But you have to claim it nowadays. If you don't claim it, you're automatically into a contract and consent to the Uniform Commercial Codes, the Admiralty, and contract, and whatever ones you encounter. I mean, there's so many of them, and they're all foreign. They're international. They're not American, and we've been tricked to to be part of that without our consent. But unfortunately, if you actually study law, you do have the ability to not be part of those contracts, admiralty, merchant, and foreign courts, because the rule of law really is the Constitution of the United States, all in harmony. And what I mean by that would be the constitutions of every state and the supreme law of the land of the Constitution of the United States of America. That's the inheritance contract that you and I are actually entitled to, because we were born here, and it's in our part of our inherited rights. But however, we have to claim that through their due process and their courts. Unfortunately, we have to we have to do multiple things to claim it. We have to stamp it, notarize it, file it, and a lot of times we won't accept it, but there's ways around that too. But most of the times when you file this stuff and get it on the record, once you show that you have a breach of contract with your contract with their contract, your contract as actually the supreme contract, but a lot of people don't know that. Anyways, I'll continue on. I declare I have a right to work and travel and contract my labor and movement in modern time and my skills as I see fit, without a third-party arbiter and capricious institution sees fit. Is the court bound to the oath of office? They're supposed to. According to the Constitution, Article 6, Paragraph 2, the Supremacy Clause, also to the Montana Preamble and the Montana Constitution. All judges are bound to protect the oath of the Constitutions. So that's why we have the oath. We have no king. All of us individuals are kings, as long as we treat people equally. We do not harm anybody, and we can be our own king and live by our inheritance from our land that we are born from and our forefathers and principles of the nation. Get back to the Article 6, Paragraph 2. What that is there's an oath that all states, all government, all delegated officers, delegated power, take an oath to swear and protect the Constitution of the United States, all the sister states, all in harmony. And that is like an oath to God, not a king, not a man. It's not controlled by any man. It's God, the oath, and that's what it's all about. A lot of people don't know that, don't want to accept it. A lot of foreigners especially don't want to accept it, because when they come from their country that they were, whatever reason they left their country for, they don't want to live by our principles and our findings and principles and foundations. They want to bring their principles and foundations from the nation they arrived from, and not change to become an actual true American and based on the basic fundamentals and principles of our nation. To me, those people that do that, they don't belong here. They don't belong here whatsoever, and they have no reason to make any changes of our fundamental principles. And if they do, they're actually breaking the law. They're violating that oath to God, our nation. Okay? But anyways, let me read on. I kind of elaborate on that quite a bit. It might sound like I repeat myself a lot, but that's just the way I am. Sorry. I have to convince myself too. That's how I learn. I get it programmed in my brain. Therefore, I submit that the statutes and constitutional acts, tickets, bill of paying, bill of attainder, license be construed to the Constitution. Therefore, I have made a sufficient, timely, and explicit reservations of my rights at 1-207. I then insist that the statutes be construed in harmony with the common law. Okay, I can break that down for you a little bit. Let's see. When I say, therefore, I submit that the statutes and unconstitutional acts, well, I guess I can elaborate a little bit on unconstitutional acts. First of all, an unconstitutional act is a statute, code, ordinance, or any man-made law that is in conflict with your contract, your constitution, or any of the sister contracts that are in harmony. you will find that all the sister contracts are in harmony. What I mean by in harmony is they pretty much say the same thing, but worded a little bit differently, but the same meaning when it comes to the word game of actual laws of word. Good example, in the Bill of Rights, there's the Fourth Amendment that states, I'm not going to recite all of it, I'll recite most of it, but the Fourth Amendment is, let's see, you have a right, the right to be secure in your houses and papers and effects against unreasonable search and seizures shall not be violated without a warrant, search warrant, or an oath, formation of a warrant describing the persons and things to be seized. I mean, that's kind of paraphrasing it myself, but my point is that is the Fourth Amendment. And then if you go to one of the sister states, pick any one of them. I'm going to pick the state of Montana, and then I can tell you the state of Texas or whatever other states that I've been that I learned like from my studies. But the one that comes to mind to me is Montana, the state of Montana. They have a declaratory rights, which is their Bill of Rights. I'm guessing there's about 30 of them in there for their Bill of Rights. It's kind of outstanding and cool. Their privacy is really essential in their Bill of Rights. But anyways, the Fourth Amendment in the state of Montana is under declaratory rights under section, I want to say, I might be wrong, but it's either 10 or 11. But that's my point. If you read that, pull it up, and then you compare the Supreme one, then you'll see what I mean when I'm talking about. They say the same thing. It's just worded a little bit differently, and they're numbered differently to trick you. But however, an unconstitutional act, I don't know where I got way off on that to tell you what that is. But anyways, an unconstitutional act is any law that is in conflict with your Constitution, your warranty, your contract, your inheritance right. I mean, it's just that simple. It's at the tip of your nose. So if you can show in a timely manner in the court of due process, you'll win every time, because they have to obey their oath of office. And their whole main objective is to protect the provisions. Don't let them tell you differently, or anybody else tell you differently. Their whole main purpose is to protect life, limb, and property, and to preserve the Constitution of the United States of America at a state level and a federal level. That's how important that Article 6, Paragraph 2 is. And anything in conflict with that is automatically considered an unconstitutional act. It's considered void, null, and not bound, has no authority. And actually, if you look in the layers of the line of succession on it, it shows in the actual laws, the line of succession, that it is actually against the law to violate the Constitution and the provisions. If you do, you could be charged for criminal charges under treason by sedition, Title 18, 241, or Title 18 U.S. 241, 242, 1628, and 2886 or something. But there's so many of them there you can find that, I mean, you're talking 10 years in prison for just violating one provision, and if it's on record. So if you submit this stuff in a timely manner, you're going to win every time. They probably won't even make it on the records. They'll probably file a motion to strike down your paperwork. But when they do that, don't be too scared, because a lot of times when they do that, if they are good-hearted people, even though they committed crimes, most of the time they'll knock it off the record because they don't want to go any further, and they'll just dismiss whatever that's going on between you. But then if you really want to continue on after you get your dismissal, even if you don't get a dismissal, you can still file a civil lawsuit on each individual. So I hope I got that to you, what a unconstitutional act is. I mean, anyways, let's continue on. I wanted to share with you what a bill of attainder is. If you actually read your Constitution, the Supreme Constitution, I'm pretty sure you'll find in the sister constitutions in harmony, there's a bill of attainder, it's called. It says, actually, a bill of attainder is illegal. They can't, they're not supposed to allow or submit or even let a bill of attainder function. And basically, a bill of attainder is, a good example is a bill of a pain. Bill of attainder is basically like a traffic infraction, a direct tax, a right of assist, capitation of taxes. I mean, a traffic infraction is a bill of attainder, and it tells you clearly it's illegal under Article 1, Section 9 and 10 of the Constitution. And basically in Article 1, Section 9 and 10, and actually in those two, 9 and 10, if you read those, one is what the states are actually authorized to do and what they can't do, and then also what the certain branch of government's allowed to do and not allowed to do, and what he can do or what they can do. So you have to read it to understand it. I mean, I can explain it more and more, but a bill of attainder is just illegal, and if you can show that in a timely manner under due process, that's even a win for you. I mean, it's actually all about contract, period. When you go study law, if you ask any attorneys, I mean, I'm not an attorney. I'm a Bill of Rights advocate and a constitutional self-claimed officer with many years of studying now. And the fact of the matter is it's all right there. All you got to do is read it. Read it, study it, understand it, peel the layers back, because they got it covered. But once you discover the line of succession, the history of it, they can't change that. And that's why it's so valuable. And the ones that do try to change it, they're in a lot of trouble, because guys like me and other people, they're hip to it, and they can end up suing them and taking everything they own if they choose to. Anyways, I'm going to continue on this. It says, I request that the court produce the injured person who has filed a verified complaint, who was injured as a result of failure to have a, whatever your unconstitutional act is. This one in here was a license or registration and insurance is what I put in this one. If the court can't produce a victim or property damage, I submit a dismissal. So what you're doing is you're bringing up that bill of attainder issue. If it's a seatbelt, traffic infraction, any right of assist or bill of attainder that doesn't have a true victim that was harmed by you by that action that they're claiming, it's void and null, period. That's just the simplest way to explain it. It's not law. I'll continue on. I'll read some more elaborating on the grounds here. I submit for grounds for dismissal. So you file your paperwork for dismissal on grounds. Grounds for dismissal. Number 1, no victim. Number 2, no property damage. Number 3, no crime committed. Number 4, I threw a statute in conflict with the Constitution. And then I mentioned an officer's name here. Number 5, actually that the officer so-and-so badge number, or this officer violated my 4th Amendment, and I filed that. He basically took my vehicle, my property, and I had to walk. It wasn't very far. I just walked right down where they towed my car, paid the $50 and got it out. But they can't take your property without due process first. So technically what they should have done is just wrote you a ticket or arrested you, you know. And if they do arrest you, go to jail. You can't be in there by no more than 3 days, because if you're in there more than 3 days, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. You can sue them for that. I mean, each day you can charge them $50,000 a day. I mean, once you figure out how to do it. But yeah. Okay, anyways, here's the 4th Amendment grounds. It says the right of the people. See, I tried to recite this earlier, but I'm going to read it. It's right here. It says the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the places to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So when I put that in my paper, I also wrote, I do not think it gets in. Actually, this is not my writing on the second part of it. It says it's somebody else's writing on the second part that helped me out in my studies. I do not think it gets any clearer than that. It says the right of the people to be secure in their persons, walking or driving down the street, houses, their homes, backyards, or motels, rooms, papers relating to their business matters and personal privacy and effects. Well, a car is an effect against unreasonable searches and seizures. When are we unreasonable? when is no warrant supported by oath or affirmation describing in detail the place, person, or property to be searched and or seized? Outstanding. Okay, now here's some case laws with some collected facts that I'll read too. It says, wherefore, plaintiffs request judgment as follows. Collected facts. Collected facts. According to law, Shapiro versus Thompson, 394 U.S. 618, says the right to travel is so basic that it shouldn't even be questioned. So that case law, so one of the famous cases laws that says traveling, modern even, you shouldn't even be questioned whatsoever. You should have that freedom to travel without being encroached or infringed, or so that most statutes and codes and ordinances are repugnant to the Constitution anyways, but you got to claim it. So, okay, the next case law says Murdoch versus Pennsylvania, 319 U.S. 106 says no state, listen to this, no state may convert a secure liberty into a privilege and then issue a license and fee for it. So if you're basic traveling by modern time with your personal property that the provisions are supposed to protect and the judges and lawyers are supposed to protect, that, if you think about it, just the First Amendment alone, you can plug it in, and in the First Amendment it says the right to be the right for life, to pursue life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It's in there. It's in the First Amendment. It's in probably the Fifth and Seventh due process somewhere in there too. I can't remember exactly, but I'm just thinking about how you can turn this into the same matter with the First Amendment. And you can do that with many provisions. You just have to read it, apply the case law, and plug it in, which some people can't do. For some reason, I'm getting pretty good at it, so I'm excited about it. Okay, the next case law, Norton versus... on these case laws, you definitely have to read them, and they're long and a lot of study and hours, but you have to know the merits of it, because they will sometimes question you. If you find yourself in court questioning, the judge might know some merits of the case. You might want to question it, and how you reflect your opinion on how that applies to you during your situation or your case, argument, or litigation or mitigation. But half the time, I'm finding out so far, most of these judges and lawyers have no clue. They don't even know how to even take the merits out and defend it against you, honestly. So if you can argue the case, it's just good to know the merits by reading them and knowing the information. And actually, you want to know the merits of the case, of what happened, and then you want to base the dissent or the opinion that the judge wrote at the ending of the final decision on the vote, because that's where you're going to be able to plug your situation into it if it actually has any correlation or in harmony with your own situation. So Norton versus Shelby County says 118 U.S. 425, an unconstitutional act is not law. It confers no rights, imposes no duties, affords no protections, and creates no office. It is in a legal contemplation as an operative, though it had never been passed. So basically what that is when you go through the due process and you answer these people playing their game through the due process, you don't even have to actually go to court to claim that it's an unconstitutional act, because any unconstitutional act by law is already void, and you don't have to prove to go to court. As long as you write down your paperwork and you send it in, and they understand it by you using the provisions and the laws to your advantage, you won't even go to court. You'll win every time. And that's what I'm finding out with my own self and my experience by these scrutiny tests that I'm doing. And that's why I'm opening an office for myself. I've already helped 10 individuals for serious crimes and serious charges, and every one of those, when I read their discovery and everything that they've done, allegations, I've plugged in the case laws and my wisdom that I've learned, and I be able to respond to it. And every one of them's been dismissed, or they'll let the statute of limitations run out. They won't give them their speedy trial. They just kind of swoop on the side, because they want all those people that are ignored of the law to come in, and so they can just pay and go on their way. So people like us, and hopefully people that listen to this video, they'll realize, hey, take the time and go fight it and go through the due process. Because if everybody did that, they would never hardly make no money. they would flood the courts, and your case would never even get going. It'd be thrown out because there's thousands and there's probably millions of people. I mean, the case laws were, I walked into court, he was packing them in, he could barely carry them in, and they're on top of the desk. All that's money. That's all a bill of attainers. Half of those, probably most of those, a majority of them didn't even have actual victims involved. That's crazy. Anyways, the next case law I want to share with you is called U.S. versus Bishop. 412 U.S. 346 defines willfulness as an evil motive or an intent to avoid a known duty or task under law with a moral certainty. I am using the Constitution and Supreme Court cases, so I'm not using evil motives or intent. So this case law right here, you can lay it down to them and say, hey, look, I'm using the case laws, the Constitution, that the ones you're swear to protect. So therefore, if I'm using all these laws and it's all to my advantage, I haven't committed no crime here. So, and then listen to this: the layers and layers that I peeled back and found out, there's cases that are recorded from attorneys all the way back 200 plus years. That's what I'm telling you about the line of succession cases. A case law that wins in court can never go negative. It always stays positive, and it can't go negative to go against any provisions. It always has to be positive, either the better or not at all. Okay, so anyways, the attorney's recorded cases is called 16th Andrews Prudent, 2nd Section 97. There's hundreds of them. This is only 97 that I caught here, and if you go and look at it, you'll be amazed. Go read all 300 of them. Oh my gosh, you got so much protection there. You're gonna be like, oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. Anyway, 16th Andrews Prudent, 2nd Section 97 says, get this what this says. It says that it shall be interpreted in a favor because I am clearly intended, you are clearly intended, when you make the claim, expressly designated beneficiary for the protection of my rights and property. So if you go in and claim through due process in a timely manner that you're the self-claimed or the beneficiary of the Constitution, it's right there. That right there alone, it's just, you got it. That's all I can say. And then a little closing thought here. It says, I live at the common law. I have a right to work and travel freely without any obstruction of my fundamental rights in my life, personal liberty, and to pursue happiness without any encroachment and without infringing or dictated by any arbitrary third party. Let be recorded and submitted into the common court I claim. Your Honor, may it please the court, I, Dwane Eugene Kirkland, with my code UCC 1-207 without prejudice, UCC 1-203, 1-308, I motion for dismissal with prejudice for failure to state a cause of action for which relief may be granted, and I would like my cost for having to defend this frivolous case. Anyways, that's a quick read. It's probably actually a long read, but elaborated on it and shared my thoughts to try to break it down to even more for understanding. But what I want to say is never give up. Read your Constitution, make your claims in a timely manner, and you should be fine, especially if you didn't have no victim or property damage or any violation on a provision. And second of all, they cannot predict a crime and predict that you're going to hurt somebody. That's just ludicrous. That's totally stupid. I remember my professor saying that. But they do, because we're ignored of the law. But once you figure this out, you should be fine. Anyways, there's my quick read from the man behind the curtain. I love you guys. God bless you.